Yet again, I apologise for my attire, but it's already 25, 30 Celsius here in Cyprus. Now, if you're in the UK, you know what it's like to be boiling your balls off right now, and you guys are not used to it. So I do apologise, but I wanted to do the video. It's really hot, and this is how I'm dressed, and if you're offended by that, toodaloo, goodbye, piss off. Anyway, we have a lot to talk about today. So welcome back to Movies TV Mad and Friday's edition of the DCU Daily. Now, in about 5-10 minutes maybe sooner, we'll be reading another interview with James Gunn as he talks about the future of his story arc for DC Studios, Gods and Monsters. Some very interesting things that he's saying. Now, can he be trusted in what he's saying, or is it just to create false hype? I would say the latter, but hopefully he means everything that he says. But it's not looking good for Superman's box office, everyone. Let's go back to the release of the teaser in December. It broke Warner Brothers teaser trailer views. It had the most views, it had hype, everyone was excited. Including me, for the first time, was actually thinking maybe James Gunn's made a great Superman movie. Everything went well. Then there was that, and he's admitted this now, that unfinished, horrible, terrible, unprofessional flying sequence. Now, I think he mentions that in this interview that he didn't check it over. How can you not? We'll get into that a little bit later on. So, box office projections have been interesting for Superman. Now, I put my hat in the ring recently, and I've made different predictions from 500 to 600 million. Initially, I think we may be in a situation that Superman doesn't even make that type of money. They would bite your hands off right now for 500 to 600 million globally when everything is said and done after the global release. I don't think at this moment in time that Superman is going to finish on 500 and 600 million. So we had estimates of 155 to 175, even going up to 200 million. Every day there's a different projection from different people. Now, this account called Box Office Theory that can't be trusted, and I believe it's a WB bot site. I genuinely believe that. It's bullshit, and you shouldn't believe a word that they say. Now, Deadline have now given new projections from around 90 to 125 to 135 million. Another site is claiming 110 to 135. Basically, but you know, Deadline know what they're talking about, right? So you're talking about 90 million to 135 million at this moment. What does that mean? What is the reality? They don't want to admit that this movie is probably going to open up with previews with a 90 million opening domestic box office. So they're garnishing it with 90 to 135 million. Superman, it's looking like now, you've got to read between the lines, boys and girls, right? If they're mentioning 90 to 135, there's a reason for that. So I believe that Superman could open to as low of 90 million with previews. So if it opens low, my new estimates are 70 million, but I think with previews, maybe it could get up to 90 million. But then I don't see it making 20 million on previews anyway, right? Unless they garnish the previews and add the Amazon fan viewing, the fan viewings in cinemas as well. They might try and do that. Be very, very careful. I would, as we go on with the box office, I will open it all up and I will describe it to you in a way that you understand. There is no agenda for or against James Gunn on this platform that is Movies TV Mad. Let me be absolutely clear. I want to tell you the news as it comes in, and I want to give you my views on that news as it comes in. That's been the case since I started this platform in July of 2018 up until now, and I'm not going to change. I have been pressured to be a hater. I have been pressured to be a lover. I am a great lover. I can also be a great hater, by the way, as you will know. But at the end of the day, this time, my agenda is that I want to see a great movie. And I think I will low-key like this movie in places, because every single moment of this film has been leaked to me. I've got it in written form. I know it from people who have seen the test screenings. So I know what this movie is. So I'm kind of like, I like this, I like that, I really like that, I don't like this, and I don't like that. Now, before I read the article, I also want to talk about something else. Now, when I saw the main trailer with the interview between Clark or Superman and Lois, I kind of thought it was okay, although I was concerned by the whiny Clark Superman we were seeing. Well, even though I said I liked it, I've seen the 30 seconds they released of that interview, which is a new portion of the interview scene, and I don't like it. He talks about himself, Superman Clark, as a third person. He says Superman doesn't do social media, he doesn't do selfies. And what they're doing, be very careful here, because this is a way of being woke and making Lois Lane a girl boss. So basically what they're doing, they're making Superman's part of the dialogue sound stupid and whiny, so Lois can correct him and teach him a better way. This is Superman. He's supposed to have common sense and intellect, and he's supposed to be smart. And we've got Lois Lane telling Superman how to do things. So, for me, it's not good. But this is how they will always find a way for the girl boss to rise above the toxic male. So secretly, he's trying to make Clark a little bit toxic here. And this is what happens when you allow a man like James Gunn to write Superman. Because he is woke. He does come from the extreme left. They're all the fucking same, and they will find a way to put in their thoughts and feelings about the world in their little movies. And this film will be no different. And so, yeah, I do not like the 30 seconds of footage. It was very cringe. It's not good. Now, maybe when I see the rest of the movie, I'll go, yeah, I get all that. He's learning. He's learning, right? He's learning that maybe he does need to be on social media. Maybe he does need to take the odd selfie. I don't know, right? Because he's talking about himself like a third person. It's like he's talking about himself as a company, as, you know, as an IP rather than a hero. So that portion of the interview is, you know, something that I didn't enjoy watching, and we'll have to wait and see. But going back to the box office, yes, it's looking like this movie will open up to no more than 100 million, which isn't good. Because don't forget, right, if it opens up to 100 million, globally it could bring in, you know, potentially you could have a 200 million global weekend. But then you have the drop-off. Then it has to creep up. You know, this film has to, at the very least, make 550 million low-key. And some people will deem that as not enough. But if it opens up to 200 million globally, it's simply not enough. And it may eventually, you know, creep to 450, maybe even 500. But listen, it's not looking good at this moment in time in terms of the box office for Superman. Now let's get into this interview that James Gunn has done with EW.com. And this is another site that's blocked me on Twitter because they can't handle real conversations, because they're not journalists. They're here to help their overlords, which is Hollywood. And if you say anything they don't like, you'll get blocked. It's not like I go around swearing at people or threatening people. I'm a very polite guy. But I am a straight talker, and I know things, and I say what I know. And these people do not like it. Anyway, DC's Man of Tomorrow. James Gunn on Superman, Gods and Monsters, and What's Next, exclusive. The writer-director of this summer's Superman and the co-head of DC Studios offers a peek behind the curtain by Nick Romano of EW.com. James Gunn is a man with a plan, but is he, or is he full of bullshit? After making the Guardians of the Galaxy movies for Marvel, he's spearheading a new age for DC as a co-head of the studio with his longtime collaborator, Peter Safran. Superman coming to theatres July the 11th is the first big screen event in this envisioned connected universe of movies and TV series. I've said at the very beginning when the DCU was launched and DC Studios was launched, we've gone past the age of the connected universe. Kevin Feige got very lucky for 3 phases, but people are now over it. They want standalone movies, standalone comic book movies, and nothing more than a trilogy based on one character. That's why I believe this connected universe will never see the light of day. And basically, without Superman succeeding and being loved by everyone, this universe will not succeed. What will happen is after Superman, if it flops, you'll see Supergirl, you'll see Lanterns, maybe a couple of other things, Peacemaker 2 obviously. It will be dead in the water. It will be boom. They'll go full on Constantine 2, full on the Batman 2, and he talks about the Batman 2 on here. I believe if Superman succeeds, then maybe something, dubious may happen with the Batman 2. If it flops, they'll go all in on Matt Reeves' vision. Anyway, Entertainment Weekly spoke with Gunn on May the 22nd, which was a while back, wasn't it? For an in-depth cover story on Superman starring David Corenswet as the Man of Steel, Rachel Brosnahan as Lois Lane, and Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor. Below are excerpts from that conversation, most of which are not included in that feature piece. From his active social media presence to upcoming projects such as HBO's Lanterns and what filmmakers Matt Reeves has planned for the Batman Part 2, to titles coming even further down the line, Gunn previews the future of the DCU. Entertainment Weekly. You're one of the very few filmmakers, probably the only head of a studio who is so active on social media. When did you decide that you really wanted that sort of direct line of communication between DC fans? James Gunn. I think that just happened naturally in the fact I'm much less active than I ever have been on social media, just mostly because I'm busy, but also because it is just too much. I've been on social media really since MySpace took off and have had a lot of interaction with fans online since that time. Yes, James, you have been heavy on social media, haven't you? I am from Manchester, Mo. I didn't know anyone in Hollywood, now not Manchester, the UK obviously. Those few moments where I was young and I was able to interact with somebody who was a part of this, what I thought of as a magical and distant and faraway world of Hollywood or entertainment, media in general, whether it was a local DJ or Joe Strummer, who I met when I was a kid, or Pierce Brosnan, who I met when I was a kid, really meant a lot. I've always wanted to give that same thing back in terms of realizing these people who are buying tickets to my movies and making fan art and all these things are just people, and to treat them with respect that human beings deserve, and creating that type of mutual respect with fans that they deserve. I joke with my colleagues that part of my job these days is debunking a lot of the rumours that go around online. I have noticed quite frequently you tend to shoot those down in a moment. But now I've kind of quit because it's just happened so often. There are a couple of people specifically who have pretty large followings who just consistently put out false stories, just one after the other. 95% of the time, maybe once out of every 20 times, they say something that has some slight or partial basis in reality, and it gets to be old. I'm not sure some of those people that I'm not actually helping them in a certain way by debunking them, because you're giving them traffic, which I always do, but I think they like it, so I mostly quit. Very true. But every once in a while, there's a story that gets out of hand quickly that has the possibility of hurting someone's feelings. For instance, if there's a director we're talking to about a project and all of a sudden it comes out a story that so and so other director who has nothing to do with anything is doing this project, you want to kill that pretty quickly because it's not true. Same thing with actors or whoever. So if people's feelings are at stake and there's something that's getting out of hand, I'll shut it down. And there's no more fragile feelings than creatives and actors in New Hollywood. What is it like for you to do that, being the head of a studio, but also the director of a film like Superman? Are you able to compartmentalize? Listen, a lot of my social networking is done by other people. Oh, it's always me, it's always my words, but a lot of times there's other people that are posting it, and a lot of other times other people are bringing me questions offline from online, and I'll answer them and send them those answers. But then every once in a while, I have a long flight or a long drive, or somebody else is driving or something, and I get on threads and I answer questions. You can see when I'm actually doing that because there'll be like 5-6 answers in a row about once every 3 weeks. What has it been like juggling your responsibilities as co-head of DC Studios with your responsibilities of writing and directing Superman? So the balance isn't between creative and business. The balance is between specific creative and macro creative. Peter Safran, he does all our meetings. He does all the business stuff. For me, it's about writing and directing. But it's also about shepherding other writers and directors. It's about trying to come up with other ideas for other shows and other movies that I give the other writers to take care of. So my job is all creative. Occasionally there are other things that you need to do. Of course, as any writer-director does, but mostly it's taking care of the creative storytelling across all platforms. That said, it's a little bit too much at times. I can do everything. I have to try to focus on what I can focus on, which has been part of my learning process over the past couple of years, having this job. If I try to do everything, it's too little of any one thing. So I need to really focus on certain pieces of what's happening. When I find somebody really terrific, what I found with Damon Lindelof and Chris Mundy and Tom King, who are running Lanterns, I read the scripts, I give them notes, but then I let them go and do their thing. I mean, I'll watch the dailies, make sure everything is going okay, then I'll watch when we start getting the cuts in, which I think we're supposed to get next week or something. I'll start giving them notes on the specific cuts, where areas maybe was a little bit more involved during the writing phase, for instance, of Supergirl, because that was something that was one of the first ideas I had when I came to work at DC. I really wanted to adapt Woman of Tomorrow, the Tom King book. So it depends on what's happening. I picked up bits and pieces of this story here and there. How did you settle on Superman to be the first movie that you would write and direct in this new phase of DC? By the way, I've told you many, many times, Superman launching the DCU wasn't Gunn's idea, it wasn't Gunn's decision, it was David Zaslav, because he wanted to create the nostalgia of Superman 78 and Warner Brothers going back to being that kind of studio. It's not that kind of studio. All 3 things that are now coming out were already in process before I took over at DC. I was already hired to write Superman, I was already working on Creature Commandos, and I already had a deal to do Peacemaker Season 2. The thing is that the priorities of what was up first changed, because I was already writing Superman. He's one of the 3 biggest characters at DC, one of the most important characters in all of Warner Brothers' catalogue, but also really the figurehead of DC in a lot of ways, because he's the first ever superhero. So it seemed like the right movie to do first. And you know I love Superman, right? But I don't think he's relatable to a general audience. I don't think launching his movie first is a good idea. I think the challenge is that Man of Steel, launching the DCEU, had problems, it being Superman, and to be fair, it being such a grounded movie and a darker movie, and it making 670 million globally, I believe Man of Steel actually overachieved considering what the film was. So I don't think they should have launched with Superman. I think they should have launched with something like Green Arrow. There's less pressure on it. It's a lesser known character. People would still be hyped and excited, but there's less pressure with something like that. A more, a grade B, C, D, Z, whatever kind of character. But Superman's huge, and the expectations are huge, and the pressure on you is huge. And it's really hard, as we know, to get Superman right. Two characters that I still have a question mark over are the Hammer of Baravia and this Ultraman figure. Am I on the right track in assuming Ultraman is Luthor's attempt to recreate a Superman kind of figure? Or am I really off? It's close. Yeah, I think that's close. Ultraman is sort of Lex's thug and is pretty powerful. So he's confirming that this is Ultraman, or a version of him. And in terms of the Hammer of Baravia, we get that shot of Eve Tessmacher, played by Sarah Sampio, taking a selfie while that battle is going on. So that implies a Luthor Corp connection. Yes, totally. Lex is connected to everything. There's nothing that's had happened in Metropolis during this movie that doesn't have some connection to Lex Luthor. How much do you see Superman as a proof of concept for what big screen films in the DCU can look like? I don't think of it like that at all. I just think of it as I'm making another movie. I'm trying to make the best movie I possibly can, and I'm hearing a lot. I'm learning a lot. This process has been more similar to the first Guardians for me than anything else, because I'm learning so much about how to shoot stuff with Superman, which is very different. You know, the flying and the figuring all that out and figuring out the simplicity and elegance of this character, which is so different from anyone I've ever written a movie for before. I'm learning a lot along the way, and I don't think that being the head of DCU and doing a Superman movie, that's very important. You know, you needed someone who visually had more experience in doing something like this. And I spoke about the terrible flying shot earlier. That's part of the problem. You can't be learning on a movie like this. There was that situation on social media where people thought David flying was a CG superimposed thing. Was that telling when you talk about having to figure out how to pull off those mechanics of getting David to fly authentically? So if you remember, after the teaser, success of the teaser, they did that awful flying shot in a TV spot, or whatever it was, an advert. It looked horrible. It looked like the face had been superimposed to the body. The background was okay, but the main problem of that shot was the hands down by the side and the way he shoots it long frame, which means the head looks bigger than the body. It looks fucking terrible. Anyway, let's see what he has to say. No, I don't think it was so much. It was a TV commercial and it wasn't a finished visual effects shot. So my question, if I'm a proper journalist, which this guy clearly isn't, my answer to that is, how could you release an unfinished shot to the public? So the part of him flying, it was a photograph of his face, which we fucking said. And he said this was all shot in the icy country where he shot it, which was bollocks. And him flying, it was a photograph of a drone flying in front of an actual background. So all the pieces were real, but it was incorporated in a kind of funky way. No. All the pieces weren't fucking real. The drone shot is real, but his face, and basically his body, his face is put on the fucking body. It looks fucking fake, fucking terrible, and it should never have been released to the public. And you've caused yourself a problem. This is one of the reasons why your box office is going to be so low. This is not the professional way of advertising a movie. Make it make sense. This is how incompetent and unprofessional modern day Hollywood is. Anyway, so all the pieces were real, but it was incorporated in a kind of funky way. I didn't love the shot. No one fucking did, mate. So it's not even the shot that's in the movie. Sometimes I'm pretty strict about when I'm going through a trailer and looking at each of the shots, but sometimes the commercials I forget to look at this closely. So that one kind of got by me. But it can't, James. It can't get by you. If it gets by you, it shouldn't get by somebody else before it's released. This is ridiculous, James. This is not fucking rocket science, mate. You've ruined your chances at a successful movie, potentially. You titled this first phase of the DCU as Gods and Monsters. How much of Superman is really crucial to that overarching story that you're thinking of telling across all of these films and TV shows. In fact, until I realised he talks about gods and monsters in this interview, I forgot all about fucking gods and monsters. Oh, it's very important. I wouldn't say Creature Commandos is important, but Peacemaker and Superman are both pretty important in terms of getting to the bigger story. At the same time, I'm really trying to be careful that anybody can dip in and see the story that is up next and not feel like they're missing information. The other stories can provide added texture to what you're watching. That might change down the line as we get deeper into what's happening in this universe. It could be like Infinity War and Endgame, where you kind of have to see Infinity War to know what's going on in Endgame. But right now, I'm trying to keep it so that you don't have to see Superman to see Supergirl. For example, even though there's a lot of stuff in Superman that leads to Peacemaker, you certainly don't need to see it to see Peacemaker. It's just good if you have. But we also say previously in the DCU before every episode, so the TV stuff's pretty easy. So, despite him saying he wants to make stuff that you can just, dip in and out of, you can't. Because it's a connected fucking universe. There lies the problem. Something your colleague David Zaslav, head of parent company Warner Brothers Discovery, said around one of these investor calls. He mentioned that Superman, Batman, Supergirl and Wonder Woman are going to be the core pillars of DC, at least for now. Is that accurate? Yes, I think that's accurate. Actually, I think that he got that from me. I wouldn't say only those 4 characters, but I would say that those 4 characters are incredibly important to us. Right now, I feel great about where 2 of those characters are, and then we're dealing with the other 2. Have you cast the other two, Wonder Woman and Batman? No. Do you believe him? Well, we cast Robert Pattinson, so he's still there. Well, you didn't cast him. I think he's being sarcastic, by the way. But he's still important. What Matt's doing is still really important. Despite all the stories to the contrary, we're supposed to see that script shortly, and I can't wait. He's claiming he's going to see that script shortly. By the way, I think this is a noise he's been making for quite some time. So let's see if he finally gets to see the whole script. Apparently, he's seen the script in portions. Now, it's all very interesting because according to Grace Randolph, Matt Reeves is dying in bed. But clearly, if he's writing a fucking script still, he's not ill, he's not fucking dying, and Grace Randolph is talking outside of her cute behind, right? So what's true? He says that he shoots down things that hurt people. Well, rumours about someone who's ill and maybe dying, should be quenched if they're not true. Is it true? It's none of our business, I understand. But it is part of the business, and these kind of rumours have to be qualified. One of the things that you and Peter emphasised early on is bringing this idea of unity and cohesion across all of these DC titles. But then you also have these Elseworlds titles like Reeves films and the Penguin series. How do you see both of these things remaining true? Well, it's going to be mostly DCU, and occasionally there's some Elseworlds tales. There are things that naturally lend themselves to Elseworlds tales. We have had a lot of animated projects, and they are sort of a different beast. They aren't like Creature Commandos. The truth is, the DCU, we give people a lot of freedom to tell different stories, but also we have to be really involved to make sure that, say, the power set of Supergirl and Superman are the same. There's a lot of really silly shit that we have to give notes on in screenplays, like powers or what cities exist in the DCU that don't exist in other places. We aren't the regular world where the DCU, there isn't necessarily Seattle, but there's an Evergreen. There isn't necessarily a New York, but there's a Gotham. So all of that type of stuff needs to be dialed in. So there's definitely room for people to tell other stories, and then it's somebody who's important like Matt Reeves, who I've had an admiration for a long time, as one of the very, very few filmmakers who is out there making spectacle, commercial fare, that's also an artist. Then you have to stand up and listen. The script still needs to be good. We're not going to make it unless we like the script, but I think that there are exceptions. I told it to one person who came in and pitched something that was an Elseworlds tale. It was a very, very famous movie actor. I said it depends on how the screenplay comes out. If it's a masterpiece, I'll make it, but it has to be a masterpiece, laughs. And he's like, I don't know if it's a masterpiece. He got all funny. He's still working on it though. He's still trying to do it. So we'll see. We'll see. Masterpiece might be pushing it, but it's got to be really great. So he's clearly talking about Keanu Reeves or Michael B. Jordan because he wanted to do the Black Superman movie, which I was interested in seeing, by the way, because that's a version of a Black Superman in the comics. And that's a shame if that doesn't happen. But it looks like he's talking about Constantine 2 and Keanu Reeves. Basically, out of politeness, Reeves and his team have to pitch shit to James Gunn. But the reality is that Zaslav really wants that movie to happen. And ultimately, he's going to overrule Gunn on things like that. So Gunn doesn't get the final say on things like Constantine 2 or the Batman 2. I can assure you of that. But out of some politeness, he has to see these people's scripts. If it's an Elseworld tale, then it's worth telling something that might tend to confuse a few people. But also part of our thing is really being clear about what is Elseworlds and that what is DCU. And the other thing is not just giving away properties like they're a party favour to people doing low-budget TV shows or stuff we have no quality control over because we're making a few $1,000s on the rights. It is having some sense of quality control over everything. So are you trying to say that Smallville was low budget? Are you trying to say Superman and Lois wasn't good quality, which it clearly was? Are you saying all these DC shows we used to have basically wouldn't happen under you? Basically, no one can come in and get anything green lit, because it interferes with what he's doing. There lies the problem. Guggenheim's Green Lantern series was going to be much better than Lanterns, and they got rid of it, right? It was going to be really, really woke, and their problematic messaging was going to be there, but I think it was going to be very, very interesting. And he put the kibosh on it. Peter Safran was telling me a little bit about Clayface and how the hope is to start filming at some point this year, assuming that the script is in this good place in the weeks following this interview. Gunn announced Tom Rhys-Harris in the lead role. The new script is great, it's great. I mean, the first script was great, then the new draft even better. The movie is definitely getting made, and I believe that. He really wants to make Clayface. I'm interested in Clayface. It's not going to be on streaming where I can't see it. It's not geo-locked to me. It's in cinemas like Superman, so that's exciting. What goes into a decision to bring Clayface into the DCU versus an Elseworlds title? Good question. Well, I think it was just we needed DCU content. Oh my God, that fucking word. That fucking word. Mike Flanagan is somebody who I've been friendly with for a long time, and he wrote me about Clayface, and he texted me about it really early on in my DC journey. Just being honest, I did not think that was something that was going to happen, but he came in and he pitched the idea, and I was like, oh shit, that's cool. It's a body horror movie. It's a horror movie that, like any cool body horror movie, just happens to be in the DCU. And then he wrote the script, and the script was fantastic. We did not plan to do Clayface. That was really something he brought to us. Because this is DCU, is this the same Clayface that we met in Creature Commandos? I think that everyone will find that out. See, they don't even know. Why not just fucking tell us? It's just really weird. Why isn't it the same fucking Clayface? It doesn't make any sense. In terms of the timeline, because you're supposed to be a connected universe, in terms of the timeline for Gods and Monsters phase, Superman is shot and coming out this year. Peacemaker Season 2 coming out this year. Supergirl is wrapped. Clayface is going to be filmed. What's the next project that's closest to starting principal photography? I'm about to wrap Peacemaker. Peacemaker and Superman are both going to end up being sound mixed and color timed at about the same time in the next 2 weeks. We're going to see early episodes of that soon. Lanterns is halfway through filming. We're going to see early episodes of that soon. Then there's another TV show that's my favourite thing in all of this that is hopefully getting made soon, probably Booster Gold, doesn't excite me that much. And then there's the movie. Oh shit, I don't know what I'm allowed to say or not say, but there's a couple of other movies that are being written, one of which is in pretty good shape. Another which is kind of closer to the start, but we feel positive about. And then there's a thing I'm writing, which I think it's okay, so what will be the next thing after Clayface is not 100% certain, but it's pretty certain. So, do they have plans? Is he just juggling a ball and throwing shit to the wall and seeing what stick? I have no idea. He sounds like he has plans, but then he says, well, Clayface wasn't planned. It's interesting. I think maybe, hopefully, he has got a plan for Gods and Monsters, but to me, it just seems like things are changing all the time, and he's rolling with those punches. It's rather odd when you're running, a connected universe that's based on a story called Gods and Monsters. Is it a plan, or does he want to look like he's got a plan? How much of these undisclosed titles are things that have already been announced versus things that haven't? My favourite thing has not been announced at all. One of the scripts people kind of know about, my script people don't know about, the other script people don't know about, so it's mostly stuff people don't know about. A couple of these things announced in January 2023 are in pretty good shape in terms of coming up, but there was one thing that I knew about from the very beginning, that when I pitched to David Zaslav what the DCU would be, I pitched to him, but we did not announce in that first meeting because I felt like it was too easy to rip off by another company. And so that's one of the main things. So he loves Marvel, he loves Disney, he doesn't want us to have banter and be competitive with Marvel, but he's so scared of them that they're going to rip the idea because he knows they ain't got any original ideas of their own. Look what they did to BVS. They ripped it off and they made Captain America Civil War, didn't they? So he's hiding this idea, this great idea. Is it all bluster or is there any truth? I hope there's truth to it. But, we know the worst kept secret is that he's writing a Superman sequel, which is Batman and Superman, the world's finest, which will be very, very exciting. Is a Superman sequel on your mind? What I'm working on is in some way. I mean, yes. But is it a straight up Supergirl? Is it a straight up Superman sequel? I would not say necessarily. Yes, it's Batman and Superman, the world's finest. Is there anything more that you can say about the mystery project that you're writing next? Is this the project that you'll direct next? Well, I always leave saying I'm going to direct something until I'm actually done with the screenplay. And then I'll say, yeah, I want to do this. But it's probably what I will direct. Yeah, probably to be totally realistic. Yes, probably. So he's directing the Superman sequel that's going to be Batman and Superman, right? The world's finest. That's what it's going to be. I'd be very excited by that. Despite what I say about the box office, I don't pray for this movie to fail. I want him to succeed because at the very least what he's attempting to do is interesting. I would like to see this franchise develop. And I know that won't go down well with everyone. I mean, if the movie's good, if Superman's good, it deserves to succeed, it will succeed, right? It doesn't matter how ill-wishing you get, that's the truth. We will see. For a long time, Guillermo del Toro wanted to make a Justice League Dark project. Just knowing your sensibilities and what you're into, personally in comic books, it's felt like this might be up your alley. Now, J.J. Abrams was planning a Justice League Dark series. What a shame, we'll never see it. Because if anyone's good at making great TV, it's J.J. Abrams. Whatever you think of his Star Wars, whatever you think of his Star Trek, whatever you think of him now, he's still a great pioneering storyteller. Fringe, Lost, Alias, Felicity. The man's got a great CV. And I love Guillermo, and we own a movie theatre together, by the way. Guillermo has never said that to me. I hear all these things about Guillermo. Would love to do Justice League Dark. Well, Guillermo's never said that to me. Just let Steven Spielberg do his Black Hawks movie that he wants to do. That's interesting, because does it sound like that Steven Spielberg's Black Hawks DC movie is still on the cards? Let's see what he says. Just let Steven Spielberg do his Black Hawks movie that he wants to do. Steven Spielberg, who I love above anyone else, has never said that to me. So these things get blown out of proportion years and years ago. So it looks like it's not happening. But let's go back to that. James Gunn does a very interesting thing. Oh, Zack Snyder never told me he wants to restore the Snyderverse, but we know that he does. We know that Steven Spielberg, he's been quoted in saying, wanted to make a Black Hawks movie for DC. And in the Johnson-Berg era, he was given the green light to do that. So just because someone hasn't fucking said it to you, James, it doesn't make it a fact. You clearly don't want Steven Spielberg's Black Hawk movie, and you're clearly saying no to Guillermo del Toro, a much better iconic director than you, doing a Justice League Dark movie because of your fucking ego. So all you've got to say is, he's never said this to me. I'm calling bullshit on your bullshit. Anyway, so anyone else has never said that to me. So those things get blown out of proportion. No, they don't. Years and years ago, I said I wanted to make a Thunderbolts movie. I was in a convention somewhere and somebody asked me, what did I want to do that? What did I want to do that wasn't Guardians of the Galaxy? I said Thunderbolts, which basically is Guardians of the Galaxy if you think about it. And for years and years, it's like James Gunn should be allowed to make his Thunderbolts movie. I have a million things that I thought I wanted to do in certain moments. But it's not the same as Guillermo del Toro. He wants to do a Justice League Dark movie. You just don't want him to. Steven Spielberg wants to do the Black Hawk movie, but you don't want him to. That's the point. I also wanted to ask about Sergeant Rock. With all the information flying out, could you set the record straight on that in terms of what it is? I feel like we're in a pretty good place. We're still moving forward, but it's not going to be what would Peter want me to say here. So clearly it's not happening and he has to come out with some bullshit. So it's still moving forward, but yeah, right now it wasn't exactly where I wanted it to be creatively. So it needs to change a little bit. So basically, we'll probably never see Sergeant Rock. Paradise Lost. Paradise Lost is moving along. It's slow moving. In other words, they're not getting that together either, but it's moving. And yeah, I really love that project a lot. So basically, Paradise Lost is not happening because for months, when he announced the Gods and Monsters, he didn't mention fuck all about a Wonder Woman movie. Suddenly, he's making a Wonder Woman movie. I think Paradise Lost is dead, and as it would be something geo-locked to me on HBO Max, I couldn't give a shit about that. I'm sure it'd be great, but if I can't see it, I don't want it. Is that really directly connected to your larger plans for Wonder Woman in this space? Yes. Well, yes and no. Wonder Woman is a separate thing. We're working on Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman's being written right now. So it's different. I mean, not different. They're connected. She's from fucking Themyscira. So basically, you can read between the lines. Paradise Lost is not happening. A Wonder Woman movie is happening because Zaslav said, get your fucking ass into gear, mate. We can't just have a Paradise Lost, series, a prequel, Wonder Woman prequel series without fucking Wonder Woman. We need a fucking Wonder Woman movie. So get your ass in gear. So he's been forced to make a Wonder Woman movie. They're the facts of the situation if you read between the lines. Also, a lot of people, I'm sure, are blowing you up on social media, probably in person too, about the state of the Batman Part 2. Now, there's going to be a lot of bullshit coming out. I'm surprised his nose didn't get larger as he was speaking. But anyway, listen, we're supposed to get a script in June. Supposed to. Let's see if we get a script. If they get a script at some point from Matt Reeves. They've had little portions, as we said earlier, but he hasn't had a complete script, right? Anyway, I hope that happens. I hope that happens. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit. We feel really good about it. How do you feel good about something you don't know about? Matt's excited. I talk to Matt all the time. So a guy who Grace Randolph says is pretty much ill and dying is excited about a movie he's writing. So he can't be ill and dying, right? Can someone clarify this fucking situation? Anyway, Matt's excited to talk. I talk to Matt all the time. I'm totally excited about it. So we can't wait to read the script. But we haven't read it yet. If that's your question, people should get off Matt's nuts because it's like, let the guy write the screenplay in the amount of time he needs to write it. That's just the way it is. He doesn't owe you something because you like his movie. I mean, you like his movie because of Matt. So let Matt do things the way he does. Look, listen, he's right. Matt Reeves takes his time. It's true. But the thing is, there is a suspicion amongst fans that Gunn and Safran are trying to get rid of Matt Reeves and the Batman franchise. I think what will happen eventually, Matt Reeves will be reduced to HBO Max TV shows with his Batman franchise. Don't be surprised if the Batman 2 becomes an HBO Max series. Don't be surprised a fucking tool, right? But we'll see, because there's something going on here with the Batman 2, and there's more to it than Matt Reeves being a slow writer. But of course he has to say this. I hope I get a script in June. I hope. He doesn't know. He hopes. It sort of relates to one of the first questions I asked you, which is your relationship to social media. I can't imagine being in Matt's position, having to write a script while also being hounded on social media for updates. Matt Reeves is a millionaire, maybe a billionaire, creative. That's his job. Be under pressure, to be hounded by people, right? That's his job. And I never hear Matt Reeves complaining about any of this shit. Maybe privately he does. People love your shit, mate. Would you rather people weren't excited to see your next instalment of the Batman? Would you rather that? So shut the fuck up. Well, I don't think Matt really pays attention to that stuff so much. He's got a lot of other things happening, so I don't think he lets it affect him. He's fine, but I'm irritated by people. I mean, it's just that thing. People don't need to be entitled about it. It's going to come out when he feels good about the screenplay, and Matt's not going to give me the screenplay until he feels good about the screenplay. So we could be talking. The problem is, the longer this movie takes to come out, the longer, it's going to take to see a DCU Batman potentially. That's another problem. So he's in as relaxed about Matt Reeves' slow pace of writing this screenplay, if that's in fact true, if he's even doing anything with the Batman 2, right? Who knows what the truth of the situation is? He's pissed off as everyone else because the Batman 2, Reeves' Batman universe, is a fucking problem to Gunn, Safran, and Zaslav. One last question. Are there other characters who will appear in Superman who have not been announced yet? Yes. So that's it. There are other characters in Superman that haven't been discussed yet. Now, we know that I don't think he's officially confirmed that Supergirl pops in to Superman near the end of the movie, in the Fortress of Solitude, right? But there's other characters. And I've always had the theory that there will be a Batman cameo leading into World's Finest. So I believe Batman, I think he's lying about not having cast the Batman. I think he knows who his Batman is. And it's very, very interesting who his Batman is. I've said from the beginning, I believe that his Batman will be revealed in this Superman movie. Thank you for watching the DCU Daily on the best, the brightest entertainment platform, Movies TV Mad. I will see you again tomorrow.